So, good afternoon everyone and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Andrew on camera with me, and on the Wendy, which is the other vehicle, we have Steph and his cameraman Brian. So it promises to be a very interesting sunset safari. So for those of you who might have missed all of the action that happened on the sunrise this morning, this sunrise safari this morning, we heard reports very sadly that the Birmingham boys, the coalition of 5 young male lions who've been moving into this area and sort of challenging the 2 big Matimba male lions, had actually killed 2 out of the 3 Styx cubs. Now we can confirm that at the moment there was 1 surviving cub who went south with their mom towards the protection of the 2 Matimba males who were maybe about 1 kilometer south of the position of where the Birmingham boys killed those 2 cubs. So very sad events of this morning. Unfortunately, it is just all part of the lion dynamics and the way that it works out here, and in terms of keeping the genetics fresh. But it's certainly been a surprise. I personally didn't expect the Birminghams to act quite as quickly as they did, but we did know that this sort of event was on the cards and it was going to happen at some point fairly soon. So shortly after doing that, they crossed into Juma, which is where we are at the moment. And for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, we are in a little tiny part of the Sabi Sands in the greater Kruger area, and we are on a live safari. So everything that you are seeing now and what is happening right here in the Sabi Sands is what you are watching on your screens. So the Birmingham boys crossed up here to where Steph had actually been spending the morning with the Nkuhumas pride, who were on a buffalo kill, and they chased the Nkuhumas off and moved into the position, which is where we are now. I know that Steph, who was on Wendy, was off looking for the Nkuhumas pride. And just while we're talking about that, a big thank you to all of the people who kept us up to date, all of the viewers and the zoomies, in terms of the fact that the Nkuhumas were at the Juma Dam camera. So thank you for your updates. We have found them very useful, and it's a great way for us to start getting an idea of the movements. Just to let you know roughly where we are, the buffalo carcass is probably about maybe less than 75 meters from where we are now. And at the moment, we only have visual of one of the Birmingham boys. As I was pulling in here, I managed to see 2 more of them at the back, but unfortunately it's very thick, dense block, as you can see in front of us. This was actually the best angle that we could get to see this particular lion. But it's interesting to note, Andrew and I sat with this carcass for about half an hour after drive had finished, just to see what was happening. And although there was plenty of vulture activities, we counted more than 60 vultures and at least 1 Cape vulture, which is fairly unusual for this area. These lions, these Birmingham boys, are in fact so full. Bless you. I'm talking, excuse me, hold on a second. These lions are so full that they weren't even going to try and defend the carcass from the vultures. So ultimately, from the kill they were consuming on Torchwood yesterday, and then their evening's slightly murderous activities, they are now exhausted and in the shade and haven't even bothered to consume that carcass. So the ultimate victors today seem to have been the vultures, who've almost finished off everything. There's hardly anything left, and there's actually hardly any vultures left as well, which is quite surprising. So that was a little bit of a rundown on what's been happening here. As you can see, we've got this young Birmingham boy. This is only my 3rd time seeing them, and I can't believe how extraordinarily big they are. Here he goes, showing off his impressive teeth. They are young. This one looks to be about 4 years old, possibly even, yeah, let's put him at around 4. Maybe a little bit older, but his mane isn't coming in yet. Still very young, but very large in size. is looking a little bit battle scarred. They all of the Birmingham boys are starting to look a little bit scratched up. They've got fresh scars along their faces. And he definitely has the very pink nose and very intact canines of a young lion. And these 5 boys, if all of them do survive, are going to be a serious force to be reckoned with. Oh. So guys, I think it's time for us to link back across to Steph. Unfortunately, he has got the corpse of one of the cubs. I'm going to send you back across to Steph. We'll be back with you later.
Wow, what a sighting that you just left, and it sounds like that you've had a nice sighting of that Birmingham boy at that buffalo carcass, although with a macabre ending to that. Myself and Brian, we've come to look for the Nkuhumas pride today, and the good news is they haven't crossed out of the reserve just yet. The bad news is it looks like they're lying up around Juma camp, which we can't really get to this time of the day because there's some guests in the camp, and I think they're going to find it a bit disconcerting if we are filming them. So we'll just wait for their guides to come out and drive, and then we'll see if we can get an update from Texan and see where they are. Couldn't find any tracks, doesn't mean anything. I'm not the world's best tracker, but I got a fairly sure that they're lying up somewhere there. But while I was out for my run this afternoon, I did pass some buffalo, and I think I want to take you to them. Buffalo are always quite interesting, and big herds of buffalo attract yellow-billed oxpeckers, and I want to go and see if this particular herd of buffalo has a yellow-billed oxpecker. For those of you wondering why I'm swatting my face like this, there's a particularly pesky fly that likes to bother me round about now. So I seem to have just lost him in the melee of swiping my hands, although it does seem to just attract more of their friends, to be quite honest. Some of you might be wondering why I don't although I think these flies are used to sitting on things like buffalo, who smell a lot worse than what insect repellent does. My feeling. Ooh. Bad. It's been quite a warm afternoon. I wouldn't say it's gotten to 30 degrees centigrade just yet. I would say it's probably been in the upper teens. There was a bit of a wind that was blowing a little bit earlier, and it's nice and warm. It's not unpleasant to be out here, I'll be honest. Cloud cover about 40%, and quite puffy clouds. It's quite hazy, the sky. It's definitely not clear. So now we're coming up onto this crest, and I'm hoping that we still see these buffalo over here. They tend to lie up in seep lines this time of the year. Now, a seep line is our equivalent of a spring. Although it doesn't come out in a single point, it comes out in a strip on about halfway up these hills on the side, and still has good grass this time of the year. So I'm hoping these buffalo are lying up in these seep lines. But while we get there, I'm sure Jamie has had a chance to reposition, or she's busy repositioning at the moment, to give you a better view of the Birmingham boys on their buffalo. And well, be sure to stay tuned, because we're going to be with some buffalo soon, I predict. We'll see you in a bit.
So guys, I do apologize for that. When I pulled into this sighting, I didn't realize that he had actually brought one of the bodies of the cubs with him. And I know that this is a very, very difficult situation for many people to see, and that includes myself. I did see these cubs with the viewers for the very first time when I was here on my trial drive a couple of months ago. So it is a difficult situation, and it is unfortunately one that we do feel we must explain to you, and I don't have a full explanation as to why he's kept this cub's body with him. The only thing that I can suggest is that because they are young males, this is probably the first time they've ever killed a cub before, and he's not quite sure exactly what it is and how to handle it. So he's brought it with him more out of curiosity than anything else, and it is just a part of their natural learning experience. And it's very, very easy for us to, in the sort of high emotional state that we're all in, to be slightly angry and disappointed in the Birmingham boys. However, it's worth remembering that this is a natural process of life, and it allows them to keep lions to naturally both keep their numbers down and their genetics fresh, which as a species is going to give them a whole lot of resilience if there are any climate changes, any kind of outbreaks of disease, any kind of selective pressure. They really, really need to keep that constant flow of genetics, otherwise it does them serious damage as a species. So they are acting purely on instinct, and at this point they are still learning and getting some experience. Over the next few years, as the Birmingham boys become quite a serious coalition, they are going to continue to do things like this, but they are also going to sire a whole new genetic line that they will fight for and die to protect, in terms of a whole load of new cubs and new genetic material coming into the system. So we must remember that although this has happened now, in the future there will be fresh Birmingham stock, and they are beautiful, beautiful, very strong, very physically healthy looking lions, and they will be passing those genetics into the lion species as a whole. So a very difficult situation to witness, but one that we must remember is natural, and it's not kind of any kind of innate evil within the lion. It is just part of nature and part of the way that they are going to continue in the future. So I know that there's lots and lots of people who've been watching and following the stories for a long time. And Marisha, you are correct. This is nature, and Rita as well. Welcome to the Sunset Safari. It is very, very difficult to watch, and it is for all of us. I know that Andrew was very sad this morning when we learnt about the cubs. I was with him when we saw them for the first time, and when the WildEarth viewers saw them for the first time. So it is nature, it is not for us to question, and there are also motives that are beyond our understanding, but we do know that this whole process is what's kept lions going for thousands of years, and it is a natural part of what they do. And I've been reading up a lot about some of the really powerful and epic lion coalitions who have been in the Sabi Sands in the past, the Mapojos, the Salatis, the Majingis. All of these coalitions I've been reading up about recently, and they all come with this history of quite sad moments and very brutal moments, but they also come with some amazing stories of fathering new and large prides and just keeping those lions going and healthy. And I must say that the lions in the Sabi Sands that I have seen are probably some of the best looking lions I've ever seen anywhere in the country. So really, really impressive looking, very healthy looking lions. So it is part of nature, it is difficult, but it is ultimately going to be a positive step for the species as a whole. But I do understand that for many people it is difficult, and it is difficult to view with that perspective right now. But time will come and the months will pass, and the WildEarth viewers will actually be able to witness as these Birmingham boys come through and start fathering their own cubs, and will be able to get past what is quite a tough moment for all of us. And obviously, as I mentioned before, I did not expect to see the body of the cub here at the moment. And this is not all that common behavior, Virginia. That's why I didn't expect to see it. It is not unheard of for male lions when they have made a kill in this kind of context, whether it is a cub or a female or another male lion, for them to chew on it and eat it slightly. I know that the Mapojos were famed for that, and the Birmingham boys did eat a little bit of that female Nkuhuma that they killed last week or a couple of days ago. I think in this case, for him to have carried it as far as he did, would be considered to be quite unusual, and I'm going to put it down to the fact that he is a very young lion. It would have been the first time they've killed a cub, and he actually wasn't quite sure what was going on or what to do with it, so he kept it with him out of curiosity. And possibly he wasn't entirely sure of the situation that he was in. As I said, that Styx female did put up apparently put up quite a solid fight to try and defend her cubs before she ran away with the last surviving member. And the Matimbas were fairly close to that position, so they might have decided to get out before the Matimbas came to investigate, and he took the body of the cub more out of curiosity and a learning experience than any intention of food. But it is unusual. That's an explanation that I'm putting forward, but I don't know. I do not know the answer to that question. I don't know why he brought it the distance that he did. So we're sitting now not very far at all from the carcass of the buffalo that the Nkuhuma pride killed, and this is now the second kill that these Birmingham boys have appropriated, to use an interesting word, in the last sort of week or so. And Dennis from Lakeville, welcome to the Sunset Safari. You would like to know if this means, or if this seems to be likely, that a coalition of these 5 big boys, are they going to be scavengers rather than hunters? And what kind of percentage will we be looking at? That's an interesting question, and one that I do not immediately know the answer to. My instinctive response to that is no. They are still highly, highly efficient hunters, and they have been renowned in the past for the last few years as being incredibly successful, as in particular buffalo hunters. I think that the reason we've seen such a high percentage of kill steals is that it is all part of the pride and dominance takeover process. So they're pushing into the Matimba males' territory, and they're pushing the prides that the Matimba males had dominance over. And it's part of a way of asserting their authority in this area. They're also moving around a great deal, which is putting them into contact with the kills that are made by other lions. And they are deliberately seeking out other lions to assert their newfound status in this area. And that is not to say that the events of today mean that the Matimbas have been overthrown and that the Birminghams have effectively taken over. It is just the beginning of what is going to be quite a long process. So I would definitely not say that they are likely to become scavengers or constantly throughout the next few years, but over the next few months, because it's part of this process, I think that there will be quite a high percentage of scavenged kills. If you guys will just excuse me for a moment, I just want to get onto the Game Drive channel. I'm just going to let the guys know that these lions are here. Yeah, stations, just to let you know, the visual is fairly poor of the Birmingham boys from this angle. I'm actually going to try and reapproach from Vulture's Nest Road. I'll keep you updated. So just letting everybody know that these lions are here. They've obviously, it's not just us who's been sharing in this saga, but guides from around this area and their guests. So as with this morning, we do have a lot of people who are very keen to see how this whole situation plays out. So over the next few months, we've been talking a little bit about, oh, we have some vulture visitors. We've got a little hooded vulture just peeking out over the top there. And it's strange because when Andrew and I were here this morning, there were about 60 vultures. And by the time we've come back this afternoon, there's about 2. And they're both hooded. So very, very interesting. Now, Sandy, over the next few months, we will be seeing a lot of changes within the dynamics of the lions. And you have a great question about whether or not this Birmingham coalition will stay together, or whether there's some kind of event that will mean that they move into slightly different territories and maybe split up and associate more with different prides. Over the next few months, I would say that they are almost definitely going to stay together as a group of 5, and that is because they are pushing into new territories and starting to fight off other lions in this area and really assert their dominance, and they need all 5 of them, especially at a young age like this. They will need all 5 of them to do so. However, once they do start establishing themselves and once they really sort of reach their prime, it's 6 to 7 years old, then there is a distinct possibility that, not necessarily due to one event, but sort of gradually, some of them might split off into, say, 2 or 3, or possibly even 2 groups of 2 and a 1, off to different sides of their large territory. They might associate more with one pride than the other, in the same way that actually happened to the Matimba male coalition, where 2 of them stayed further north and now in fact are almost separated by another male coalition from Ginger and Hairy Belly, just in between them. And another member of that male coalition, the Matimba males, actually was seen associating with females in the Kruger. So it does happen that these large males coalitions do split off, especially once they start to become quite established. That doesn't mean that they won't come together again at different times in case something major happens and they need to, if say there's a threat from another big male coalition, then they might band together again, they'll call to each other and they'll move back together and reassociate. So entirely possible that over the next few years, there will be times when they split apart and then possibly even come back together and then split apart again. And generally what happens is that those who are in similar ages will be the ones that stay together if there is a split. But I know that There's about 4 of them who look to be very, very similar in age, and then the 5th who is probably about a year and a half older. He's got a much, much fuller mane. Now, I would like to see, because originally this morning, as far as I know, there were only 3 of them seen, and there are 5 of them. So we've been talking about all 5 of them, but at the moment I can only see 3, and you guys can only see 1, given the position that they're in. So I would like to actually pull out of this sighting and then move around to the other side of the road and see if I can enter from that side and find them from the other side. I cannot push any further forward due to how thick the block is. So I'm sure you're wondering what Steph has been up to, and I know he's got that very, very large herd of buffalo that we were with this morning, and they're not too far away from here. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye and send you back across to Steph, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, we found your buffalo. Massive herd of buffalo. Probably 300 or 400 in this herd. One of the largest in this area. Pretty typical for the size that they're at for a large herd. We call them breeding herds because it's made up of a bunch of females in societies, believe it or not. And they're all lying down. And what we also found is quite interesting. There's a cow that's wounded, and the oxpeckers are busy feeding on the wound. And for those of you who tuned in yesterday, we were having a discussion, or at least I was having a discussion with you about oxpeckers being coming out of that wound. You just excuse me for 2 seconds, I just have to be on the radio. Okay, good afternoon, sorry about that. There's a Makulu Hlambi of Nyari just on the western side of quarantine, and then Jamie is with the Birmingham Lions off of that buffalo carcass. Yeah, it's myself. You're welcome to make your way in. Please just make your way in though. It's affirmative, you'll give me visual from there. Now, I mentioned that that buffalo lie up in societies, and that's absolutely true. Made up of family groups. And what you're looking at the moment is one of those family clusters. So the big herd will be made up of a couple of families. I don't know exactly how many families. I suppose it would be dependent on how big the herd is. And these families have votes. And when the herd has finished lying up for the day, all the buffalo will get up and start standing up and getting ready, and they'll all face in a particular direction. And the family with the most members, therefore the healthiest family, will pick the direction of where the herd goes for that day. Isn't that fantastic? Now within a family group you have dominant cows. There's a hierarchy there amongst the females. And you'll also have what they call pathfinders. And these are buffalo that within that particular society or family group will be the ones that walk out at the front and actually pick the path through the bush, pick the path to water, pick the path to the best grazing. And we'll just think of them as silly cows sometimes, but we forget that these are where all our cattle come from primarily, I suppose. The proto cow. This is where it all started. There seems to be some movement amongst the herds at the moment. I'm noticing that the older cows are starting to push the younger ones up. You see that old cow on the right hand side there. she's now woken up 3 or 4 buffalo. They've been lying in the shade of a knobthorn tree. There's a tiny baby there as well. Have a look at that little guy. Isn't he cute? Not brand new. A couple of weeks old already. Ah, and that female just chased him. What for? It's because she's got oxpeckers biting at the hole in her rump. I suppose it makes her grumpy. It gives her license to be grumpy. I'd also be grumpy if birds kept me bleeding like that. You can actually actively see those birds feeding off that blood or drinking the blood. The red-billed oxpecker. That could have been from a lion's claws. It could also just be from running through the bush. It could have been another buffalo. She may have been in a tussle with another buffalo. Without me actually getting a little bit closer, it'll be difficult for me to see what actually gave that buffalo that wound. However, I'm sure she'll give us the chance when they start waking up. I'll go a little bit closer. I was reluctant to approach closer and wake them up from their afternoon rest. Everywhere where we're looking at the moment, there's just horns of buffalo. I count easily 300 or 400. You can see over there all those little horn tips that you're seeing there. That's all just a buffalo lying there. Just in frame there, there's probably about 10 or 15 buffalo. And Virginia has just asked a nice question. Do the oxpeckers on that wounded buffalo, do they keep the wound open and do they help it heal, or is it actually to the detriment of the animal? Virginia, that's a good question. I've seen both. I've seen oxpeckers keep wounds open for longer than what they should have been kept open for, much longer in fact, creating quite a big scar, and obviously with an open wound you've got chance for infection going in there. However, on the other side of the coin, they do keep out necrotic tissue, so tissue that's dead or injured and not getting the right amount of circulation. They actually crop that tissue off, keeping fresh blood coming to the circus, and that obviously helps to keep those wounds clean. Look at that little baby, he's trying to suckle and mom's not having anything, not having any of it. Just trying to get up between her back legs over there. I do know that Brent or Scott calls buffalo beefaloes. I'm not too sure which one it is. Perhaps one of you could elaborate on which one of my colleagues calls buffalo beefalo. And then Meg has just sent through a nice comment saying that she quite enjoys the term that I use there, proto cow. Thanks, Meg. I I coined it a few years ago when I learnt about how well structured buffalo societies are. To me, they just stopped becoming buffalo, these beasts that are, for the most part, quite disgusting, and they're covered in flies and mud and caked in all sorts of excrement. And when I started to look at the way that they structure themselves and how they stand up and point in a direction, and the same animals, the same individuals move out to the front, and they called the pathfinders, and you have this separate hierarchy amongst the bulls going on, and how they will quite often and very vigorously change that hierarchy when given an opportunity. It was then that I decided that these are not just simple cattle. They're not just the way we see dairy cows. But I'm going to see if we can get a bit closer. Most of the buffalo have actually stood up and moved off. Not because of us, at least. And that'll give us a chance to go a bit closer and hopefully see what has injured that cow. Although I must be honest, I've lost where she went into the group. Now you'll notice that even though there's not too many big bulls present in this herd, the smaller the cows that have got calves are still in the middle of the herd, with the bulls on the outskirts. Just over my shiny bald head, you have a big bull standing there, and you have another bull off to our right, which I'll show you in a second. And he would be one of the breeding bulls. Not this cow's got herself stuck in a branch over here. Now it's quite odd, we're not seeing too many cows here, too many bulls here at least anyway, and the cows that I'm seeing, some of them have got enormous horns, like really good condition. Oh, look at this one giving himself a scratch on this branch. They carry an unbelievable tick load. You're looking at about 60,000 ticks, up to 60,000 ticks of buffalo, and scratching is definitely one of the most important ways of getting rid of those parasites. I must be honest, I have an affinity for ticks. I tend to attract them like magnets when I'm walking through the bush. Scott and Brent seem to be immune to their advances. We've got a zebra that's there we go. He's just decided to join these buffalo. Funny enough, the buffalo that I'm looking, that cow that you're looking at the moment, she's got very few ticks, even in the place under her armpit that you can see there, which is generally a tick magnet. She doesn't have she hardly has any, and that's usually a very good sign of the health of these buffalo. She's in very good condition. She's an old cow as well. That is just a prime example of a perfect Cape buffalo. Nice to see. So Pacino John has just given me the answer of my colleagues. It's not Scott or Brent, but actually James that calls these buffalo beefalos. A lot of my colleagues call them by a whole variety of different names. I'll be honest with you, they don't have a good reputation. The older buffalo all want to kill you when you're walking through the bush, and these ones tend to just leave tons of flies wherever they go. But I quite like buffalo, I must be honest. I don't like the flies they carry, that's a fact at the moment, but I definitely do like the way that they go about their things. And we have got a little visitor over here. We've got a fork-tailed drongo that's busy hawking insects out of the grass here as the buffalo are moving through. There we go. Now he's making the most of this buffalo herd and the abundance of insects that they carry, not only flies but also the insects that they'll kick up out of the grass as they're moving through. So speaking about this being a breeding herd and there being all these babies around, Sibusiso in Hammanskraal has asked, can Cape buffalo be domesticated and can they be crossed with our cattle? Sibusiso, that's a nice question, because buffalo breeding in this country is become an enormous business. Disease-free buffalo, all of these buffalo unfortunately are not disease-free. They all carry some or other diseases, tuberculosis being one of them, foot and mouth being another, and of course we can't allow these in our national herd of beef cattle. They'll decimate those herds. So there is a value attached to a disease-free buffalo, and a couple of years ago some intrepid businessmen, farmers, decided that they'd go and farm these disease-free buffalo and created a market. And last year a disease-free buffalo bull was sold for 44 million rand at an auction, which gives you some idea of the insanity of markets that I just don't understand. And then back to your question about can they be bred with our cows. And Sibusiso, one of the ways that they got the disease-free buffalo was to impregnate a common cow or our cattle with a buffalo's embryo, and that was how they got the beginnings in some instances of these disease-free this disease-free herd. But they can't be domesticated. You can't tame them up like cows. Friends of mine who are breeding with buffalo say that they are incredibly dangerous when you are breeding with them. They retain that wild streak, I suppose similar to a wolf in many aspects. Where you can train up a dog, even an aggressive dog you can train it, but you can never tame a wolf. I would say that it's probably similar for buffalo, where you could domesticate a buffalo, but you're never going to tame it. It's always going to retain that wild streak in it. Have a look at this buffalo here. When she's walking, you'll notice underneath the armpits in the front, that is where I'm looking for ticks. And Gail has sent through an email wanting to know how I made my comment just now. And Gail, as you can see there are a few ticks there that you're looking at. It's those dark spots that you can see in the deep fold there. But on a buffalo that's unhealthy, they're almost covered in ticks. They look like grapes there. Now I'll see if I can find one that's covered in ticks, but to be honest with you, all these buffalo are in such good condition, I think it's going to be difficult. They're leaving all their ticks in the bush for me to pick up. See, none of the buffalo that I'm busy looking at the moment are in bad condition. There's a couple of skinny cows that I've noticed, and then there was that one cow with a hole in her bum. I think she's the one that's lying down over here, but they're all in good condition, which is a nice sign. It means that the bush is healthier than what we think it is. I mean, we're looking at the bush now, seeing it at the basically going into the nightmare time of the dry season. The hottest, driest months are approaching in September, October, with our first rains predicted any time from the first, second week in October, and in a very dry year potentially towards the end of October. So it's almost the end of the dry season, and all these buffalo are in very good condition. I mean, like I say, a handful of skinny ones, which you always have in a buffalo herd, but really, this young buffalo is busy chewing the cud. That posture that they're in is called a ruminating posture. And you will notice that cows, sheep, goats, kudu, even giraffe will lie down in a very similar posture to ruminate in, chewing the cud. There's a buffalo over there that's busy doing a Flehmen grimace. We see it very often on. When lions do it. It's not common to see it on. Well, it is actually common to see it on buffalo, but I haven't really seen it portrayed there. And there you can see that very typical head stretched out, mouth open, top lip curled up. As you saw over there, you've noticed lions doing it. Male lions do it quite often. Now you've just seen a buffalo do it. And they do it to test one another's... basically what's happened is a cow or a bull has urinated there, and that buffalo's come up and is smelling that patch. And they're able to, with a very sensitive sense organ in the roof of their mouth, determine hormonal state, which is quite impressive. And she was probably doing it just out of curiosity, out of interest's sake. Now Jimmerlin has noticed one of the buffalo over here. She seems to have an inverted uterus, something coming out from under the tail. But for the life of me, I can't see it, Jimmerlin. I'm sorry. I've obviously missed it, and in me missing it, she's turned around or lain down somewhere. But I'll keep my eyes open, I promise. I'll keep a lookout, and if we do see it, I'll bring attention to the camera. Brian's also scanning and helping me look. So while I'm scanning for that buffalo, I think it would be a good time to go back to Jamie. She seems to have repositioned and is now in a better position to show you those Birmingham lions. So we'll catch up with you in a little bit and enjoy what she's got to show you.
So guys, welcome back, and whilst you were with Steph with those buffalo, we have repositioned just to get a slightly clearer view of one of the other Birmingham boys. We did have to go all the way out and around to get back in here. It is a very, very thick block, And there is a third one, but he has ducked off behind the guari bush just as we arrived, so I can't actually get around to see him at the moment. But what is interesting is I have looked very hard. Andrew and I did come out a little bit earlier this afternoon just to see if we could follow up what was happening. And I definitely have only been able to find 3 out of the 5 of them. So where the other 2 are, I do not know. The 3 that I've seen seem to be 3 of the younger ones, so I'm not quite sure where the other 2 were. As far as I know, there were only 3 who crossed into Djuma, but it could be that the others have followed behind and have just settled down in the shades somewhere, maybe just further south of where we are. I do think that a little bit later it might be worth checking around those areas, checking where the lions came in, and see if maybe we can find them. They could, of course, be here somewhere in this block. I can't see them at the moment, but it's not impossible that they are around and I've just missed them. As I said, it is very, very thick. But we do have one very battle-scarred Birmingham male. He looks very, very peaceful, and for some reason has decided that cuddling a buffalo thorn is the way to go. But you can see he's looking very beaten up. He's got lots of fresh cuts and scrapes around his face. So he does at the moment look very peaceful and almost harmless, but obviously he's not, as they have killed 2 of the Styx cubs. And Alif would like to know why it was that he did that, because surely they're not mating with the Styx cubs the Styx females at the moment. So was it a display of dominance, or what was the motivation behind it? And it's a combination of factors. At the moment, it is a way of asserting his authority over the area, or their authority over the area, and sending a message to the Matimba boys that they are moving in. They will, as we do know, it is very, very common for lions to kill cubs during the process of a pride takeover, and that is to bring the females into estrus as quickly as possible so that they can mate and pass on their own genetics. But in this particular instance, I would say that it was more of a show of dominance and hierarchy and just sending through a message. Now, I do also think it is an instinctive reaction by marauding males who are starting to push into new territories. And I think it was just very bad luck and very bad timing for that Styx female, because their natural instinct is to start killing cubs to bring females into estrus to mate with them. So it's a combination of factors, but they won't be immediately mating with any of the females in the area. It's just part of the long process that will be how they start taking over this area. So if these males are successful over the next few months in doing a pride takeover, they will then be free to mate with the available lionesses who are coming into estrus. And John from Atlanta, welcome to the Sunset Safari, and it's a pleasure. I'm glad that we could put a little bit of context into the goings-on that are happening here. And these Birmingham males are sexually mature, so John would have liked to know if they are capable of impregnating the female. And yes, they definitely are. They've got a little fork-tailed drongo, as always. They seem to be everywhere, just waiting for insects to be disturbed by the various animals. But yes, these males are sexually mature. They will be capable. They would have been sexually mature and or at least capable of impregnating a female at around the age of 3 years old. So they've had a long time in which to become sexually mature. It's just a matter of having the opportunity to mate with females. And this will probably, if they do take over these prides, which I'm starting to think is highly, highly likely, then it will probably be the first time that they have ever mated before, unless they have managed to sneak in the odd activity while dominant males are in different areas of their territory. And that is not unknown to happen. Lionesses will take the opportunity to mate with as many males as they can, obviously to prevent the kind of situation that we had this morning with the Styx female and her cubs. If they had been around the boundaries of the matimba males and they had mated with that Styx female at some point in the past, there would have been a much higher likelihood that they would have at least left her cubs alone. But unfortunately, bad timing, wrong time, wrong place for the Styx cubs. And if a female lioness, let's take that Styx female for example, if she had mated with one of the Birmingham boys and then gone on to mate with one of the matimba males as they made their way back towards that pride, there is a lack of recognition in terms of the males as to which cubs are theirs and which aren't. So Wendy, welcome to the Sunset Safari. You would like to know if they know if cubs are theirs or not. And to an extent, not really. They will know which females they associate with and which females they have mated with, and therefore which cubs are most likely. Will not know with certainty. And I know that there have been studies done where there are females associating with their dominant males who have mated and given birth to cubs who do not belong to those dominant males, but the dominant males simply just assume that they are theirs. There will be a degree of kinship recognition, and a lot of the time those dominant males will be correct, those cubs will be theirs. But that is one of the reasons why female, or the lionesses, have such protracted estrus periods, because they need that repeated mating process in order to bring about ovulation, and it just allows for them time to have multiple partners, get the best genetics in there. And it's an approach that's very, very similar to the leopards in the area. So the female leopard in estrus will also mate with as many males as she can. It is just a very good survival technique. So the lions might not recognize the cubs that are theirs per se, but they will recognize the cub's mother as a female that they have mated with in the past. He's looking very, very peaceful. See how very thick this block is. Have you spotted something, Andrew?
Yeah, just a termite mound, I think.
Oh, okay.
I thought I spotted something.
You thought you saw a lion?
Yeah.
As we can see, it is very thick, and your eyes do start playing tricks on you. I spent a lot of time while I was searching for the rest of this group, staring at various logs and termite mounds. And these Birmingham boys have been on something of a dominance spree, and during that they killed one of the Nkuhumas lionesses about a week ago. And Deborah, you would like to know what kind of circumstances there will be with the state vets coming out, which is what happened with the Nkuhumas lioness. Sorry guys, please excuse me for one moment. Deborah, I promise I'll get back to your question. I just have to contact the guys on the Game Drive radio. Standing by. Okay, copy. There's only myself at the sighting at the moment. Just to warn you, it is a very, very thick block. The visual is good though. It's a very thick block to make your way in here, but the visual once you are in is good. That's affirmative, basically directly opposite where the carcass is. Sorry guys, I was just explaining to the other guides how we get in here. But I just wanted to finish talking about what we were discussing with that Nkuhuma lioness. So when she was killed and Brent got special permission to go across to Torchwood to have a look at her, he encountered the state vets who were taking the body for a necropsy and just to do a little bit of research and testing into the state that the lioness was in terms of having contracted TB or something along those lines. And as to what they are going to want to do with this cub, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to immediately let people higher up in authority know that this cub is there. I have already done so on the radio while you were with Steph, and I'm not sure who will be making that decision. I think it is a distinct possibility that they might want to come and have a look at that cub, especially because it's a separate pride from the Nkuhuma lioness, and it is a slightly younger cub. So I don't really know the answer to that question. I think it is likely that the vets will be coming, but I just have to let people know as soon as possible and pass that message on. Obviously, they're not going to be coming in right now while there's a group of at least 3 male lions in the area. They'll wait until these guys have moved off. And I think it is highly, highly unlikely that the lion will take that lion cub any further than it has now. I think it was just caught up in the process of what was going on. So some very, very interesting insights into lion behavior. They have, as difficult as it is to watch, we can learn a great deal from what these Birmingham boys have been doing recently, and they've certainly taught me a serious lesson. I thought that they were a little bit too young to have started doing this, but obviously their size and their numbers have really helped them out a great deal. And you can see how battle-scarred this male is looking. And I have heard reports that the mother of the cubs did put up a very serious fight in defense of her 3 youngsters. And Cindy from Tennessee, welcome to the Sunset Safari. The mother of the cubs did survive, according to reports. I'm not sure what kind of condition she was in, but I know that she did run away and escape with the other little cub. And so yes, the fact that she still has 1 cub and will still be lactating will mean that she does not come into estrus for the next couple of months, provided that cub stays alive. And we've had some interesting questions about the state known as false estrus in lionesses. Now, I do have to research into it a little bit more, but it is fairly common for lionesses who are subjected to the stress of a pride takeover to go into something known as false estrus, where they give off all the signs of being in genuine estrus, including the scents and the pheromones that would trick the males into believing that they are into estrus. And they'll do that when they have slightly older cubs, as far as I know, so sort of cubs around the 8 to 10 month or maybe a little bit older mark, but just before they would naturally be going into genuine estrus. And they do this to try and trick the males into mating with them and to leaving the cubs alive, and so that the males think that the cubs are no longer necessary to be killed to bring the female into estrus. Now, I have to read up on the timing of that. I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that it is a very, very clever way that females have devised in keeping their cubs safe. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. That female is going to have her work cut out for her. Hopefully she will run for the protection of the Matimba males. Oh, a little bit of a stretch. It's obviously been a very hard day. But yes, that female will hopefully run for the protection of the Matimba males and stay as far away from these 5 as she can. I know that she worked very hard. She stayed as far south as she could, and unfortunately they pushed into into her territory. Sorry guys, I just heard quite a strange sound, and I just want to sit and listen very quietly. It came off from a position sort of to the south of me, and I just want to hear that again. It sounded like a contact call of some kind. I know Andrew heard it as well. I've just turned off my game drive channel for the moment. Something somewhere out there was making a very interesting sound.
Sounded like a cat almost.
It did. I'm not sure if it was... It sounded very much like the sort of mewling sound that a cat or a cub makes, which is very, very curious. Still... I think it actually might be birds. I think it is birds. It just sounded very strange the way that it caught on the wind. That was interesting. You never know. It always pays to keep your ears open in the bush. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, if the Styx females if there is one in estrus, and she does decide to mate with one of the Birmingham boys while the Matimbas are away, and Marisha, you'd like to know what would happen if the Matimba males caught her doing that. What would happen in that kind of scenario if she was, sort of in inverted commas, cheating on one of the Matimba males? And the answer to that is quite complex. There's going to be a lot of dominance displays happening. So most of what would be occupying the Matimba's attention would be the other male. So they would be focused on trying to get rid of that male, and would very likely attempt to either kill him or chase him away as quickly as possible. There was interesting circumstances recorded where a male who did catch a lioness, so a dominant male of that pride, caught a lioness cheating, and he did actually kill her. So it has been recorded to have happened. It does seem highly, highly unlikely in my mind. I think most likely what would happen in that scenario is the dominant male would either chase or kill the other male and chase them away, and then take over the mating process. So just make sure that his genes were the ones being passed along. That is the most likely scenario, but it has been known to happen where a male has killed the female that was mating with another male. I've only ever read about one circumstance when that has happened, but you never know with lions. Of course, they don't read the books, but for the most part it makes more sense for the Matimba male in that scenario to just continue to mate with the female and then try and pass on his genetics in that kind of way. So this lion is not going anywhere, and I would like to be able to reposition so that we can see the other male. I do want to know where the largest male is and if he is here with them. So for now, I'm going to send you back across to Steph, who has a beautiful lilac-breasted roller to show you, and I will be back with you a little bit later.
not quite a lion lying up in the grass, but we've definitely got one of the prettier animals out here. This is a lilac-breasted roller, which I'm sure a few of you have seen before, but they're really starting to, their colors are really starting to pop at the moment, and you can just see how pretty the colors are on this particular bird. Those tail streamers are sitting right at the top of the tree, all because that's where you get seen. They don't have those beautiful colors for no reason. Those colors are definitely there to attract a mate. They live in bonded pairs and they nest in holes in trees, and it's almost time for them to start nesting. They'll start nesting at the beginning of summer. It's usually triggered by the first rains. A lot of birds are, their nesting is triggered by the first rains, and they'll be using old woodpecker and barbet nests, defending their trees quite vigorously. Have a look at that. Sitting right at the top of Lania schweinfurtii. And I must apologize now for my bald head getting into the way of the buffalo a bit earlier. Brian was busy saying as he was panning through there, you got this horrible pink shiny thing coming through the screen there. So we've been having a good chuckle at that. It's been going on, I must be honest with you. It does tend to get in the way. So if any of you were blinded by the pink glacier that came through the screen. Now we're in the middle of a bird party here, and we've got two awesome birds that I want to show you, but I've lost visual of them at the moment. So we're going to go forward a little bit. I'm not going to start the car. Where can you see? We've got, okay. Let's see if we can go forward. That is a blue waxbill. And then next to this blue waxbill, somewhere around here, we've got a yellow-eyed canary, and they are some of my favorite birds. They really are very, very pretty. And let's see if we can get a bit closer so that you, there's one or two more there. You see them there. That powder blue on their bellies. There's another one in the open over here. On our left over here. We're going to just swing out a little bit just so that you can get a view of the one on the ground on this side. It's a little bit closer and a little bit more in the open. There we go. Awesome. Blue waxbill. And what's interesting about these little birds for me is the fact that they will go and build their nest of, it's a woven basket of grass, and quite often in association with a wasp's nest. They will build their nests right next to the wasps. The wasps, I don't know who builds it first, whether it's the wasps or whether it's the waxbills, but right at the entrance to the blue waxbill's nest would be this wasp's nest, and it's used to protect the baby birds. You know, the wasps are fearsome protectors of their own nests, and I mean, it's just amazing that you have that symbiosis between two completely unrelated species, even in different, one's an insect, one's a bird. I mean, you couldn't have something more different. Yeah, they're all in the grass. Let's go forward a little bit more and see if we can get one of these canaries here. I don't see any movement, but that doesn't mean anything. These grass flats can be deceptively productive for birds, actually. My car just doesn't want to go forward. There we go. Come on. There we got it. Let's see what else is over here. Come, canaries, come out of the grass here for me. I'm hearing them everywhere, but you can't see a thing. This grass is very effectively providing some cover for them, and you never think. But in any case, I think it's also a good time for us to go on. We've made a big loop away from those buffalo in the hope that we can come back into the area where the Nkuhumas were last seen this morning. We don't actually know whether I asked for an update from the rest of my colleagues, and they all seem to think that the lions walked up the riverbed a little bit. Lee took a walk into the riverbed this morning and couldn't find them. I've done a loop around the back end, found out if Dennis in Massachusetts has made an observation that we see a few different bird species all together, and would they change as the season progresses? And Dennis, I'd have to say yes to that question. They definitely would change as the season progresses, and you get different mixes coming in as well. And I'd say probably here by December, January, when all the migratory birds are back, before the first ones actually go back into the northern hemisphere, we have our greatest concentrations of different bird species, and you can get anywhere up to 12 or 13 different bird species all around the same place, you know. It's usually congregate around a feeding area, or it really can be quite spectacular if you've got the time to sit and identify all these tiny little birds. I enjoy these small little birds, the waxbill canary sized birds. They tend to be a lot more colorful than what the bigger birds are. We're talking about big birds. We've got one of the tallest birds out here, currently resting on the side of the dam. It's also one of the rarest birds that we have in South Africa. And there on the far side of the water, we have a saddle-billed stork, which is just popped in for a visit. There really are only a few thousand of these birds left in the world, and primarily of which is habitat destruction, which is causing their demise. Once again, just humans and their ever-increasing footprint across the planet. Now, this bird's probably been attracted to this drying up pan. There are fish that are stranded in this water, catfish and tilapia. And he or she will be wanting to make a meal. The female of this particular species has a yellow eye, and this has a brown eye, and so it's a he. They get their name from that beautiful yellow saddle that it covers their beak. Primarily fishing birds. If you're looking for a reference on how big that bird is, is probably, depending on how tall you are, standing between your hip and the top of your belly. So that's generally the height that they are. So between your hip, or the top of your hip and the top of your belly, depending on how tall you are, which is quite tall for a bird in actual fact. Long slender bill, what they'll do is that bill is full of sense organelles, almost like your finger is, and they will run the bill through the water with it open, and every time they feel a fish between their bills, they will close their bill quite fast, snap it closed, and then if they do catch a fish, the fish will be twisted head first and swallowed head first. Those Nkuhumas were around here this morning. They came and drank, and then, like I said, from what we understand, they actually carried on going north away from the pan. But there are lots of animals around here at the moment. We've seen nyala, kudu, buffalo, impala, everything around this dam at the moment. And I'm almost sure if these lions were lying in the area, they would have they would have caused these animals to move off in search of other water. There are quite a few dams dotted up and down this drainage line. Isn't that just a wonderful sight? It's nothing special, and yet it's very special. This time of the year, these drying up pans are a feature in almost every single national park that I've ever visited. You can see the dry, cracked mud and a little bit of water, bubbles in the fish. Looks very similar to an elephant skin net. Those footprints you're looking at over there, those are hippo footprints. Into the water. And those ripples are from the fish that are inside there at the moment. Not too much water left there at all. Alright, I think I've listened enough over here. I can't hear anything at the moment, so I think we're going to carry on. Let's carry on and look for these Nkuhumas and see where they've gone, what their story is. Did they carry on walking? I was very interested this morning to find out what they were going to do. Were they going to come for a drink and carry on walking? It didn't look like it. But then again, no one's found them this afternoon, and it could very well be that they've managed to walk across the boundary and are gone. Would suggest that with all the general game that's around this area at the moment. A bit bumpy going over here. Alright, while myself and Brian comb this area, I think it's going to be a good idea if we send you through to Jamie. She's managed to reposition and has another one of the B-boys to show you. So while we carry on, enjoy.
So guys, welcome back, and while you were with Steph, we just did a bit of a loop, not the easiest loop in the world given how thick this block is, but we did just locate the final of the 3 Birmingham boys that I've been able to see. I do not think the other 2 are anywhere in the vicinity. It's entirely possible I might have missed them, but I don't think so. And this one in particular is looking a little bit sorry for himself. His right ear, which we might see when he shifts position slightly, but his right ear is looking very cut up. Unfortunately, he's just put his head down behind the grass as we speak, but he does look as though he's been in quite a serious scrap. I think that lioness definitely showed him who's boss. And just look at the size of those paws. These boys are going to be absolutely enormous when they're a little bit older. They're already big now. They are going to be a serious, serious force to be reckoned with. See that, just that black tip of his tail sticking up out of the grass. It is amazing to think now how harmless these the three of them look. They are completely passed out. It's obviously been quite a lot of activity from yesterday's stealing the buffalo kill to today's activities until now. As I mentioned before, they didn't even bother to try and feed off that buffalo carcass. So we were just wondering about how it was that the Birmingham boys came across that female with the cubs. And Lewis from New York, welcome to the Sunset Safari. You were wondering if they had smelt them out or maybe heard them in some way and whether that led them to the cubs. And honestly, I don't think so. I think it was possibly a coincidental encounter, or at least that led them to that point. They might have picked up on their sounds or their contact calls at some point during the night and followed from there. It's very, very difficult to tell exactly what went on last night. Personally, I think that they have just been regularly patrolling. They didn't actively go and seek those cubs, but I could be wrong in that regard. I think it was just they encountered or were just patrolling through, pushing to find new territory, and then the Styx cubs gave themselves away in some way. So, Kay in Wisconsin, welcome to the Sunset Safari. You would like to know, on the subject of the death of those cubs, whether there's any way that the Matimba males would know that those cubs had been killed by a lion, or more specifically that they'd been killed by the Birmingham boys. I think they would be well aware of what had happened. It's possible they even saw that the lioness actually came to them from where she fled with her other cub. And I think that, yes, there would be instinctive recognition as to what had happened, especially because they are aware that the Birmingham boys are a threat at the moment in this area. And what we have noticed is that the Birmingham boys have been calling and scent marking. And I would not be surprised at all if where that cub was killed, or when the 2 cubs were killed, the Birmingham boys would have scent marked around the area and scratched with their paws and sprayed urine, and possibly even called, because we did hear some vocalization of lions early this morning. So that is a possibility. I would not be surprised if that was the case. I think the Matimbas would be aware of what had happened. And this afternoon I spent quite a lot of time doing a bit of reading into the various male coalitions of this area over the last few years. And Bugsy, you would like to know if the Birmingham boys would be the offspring of the famous Mpocho coalition. And from what I could tell, probably not, just in terms of where the Birmingham pride that the Birmingham boys get their names from, where they were located. And they were up in Tinswalu, which is north of Manuletti, and the Mpocho's reign sort of was around, from what I understand, much further south. But you never know, that is a possibility. What is possible is that the Birmingham boys were, well, what we do know at the very least is that the Birmingham boys were up in Tinswalu, part of the Birmingham Pride, and they were actually pushed out of the area that they were in, strangely enough, by the other part of the Matimba male coalition, which is something very interesting that I read. And when they did split off from the Pride, they split with some of their younger siblings. No problem.
What a mission.
Yeah, it's very thick.
Unbelievable. Sorry to disturb you.
No problem. There's a third one there to the left. Sorry guys, we're just joined by some other guests. Yeah, he does very definitely, he just lifted his head there for the briefest, there we go. We can have a look at that injury above his ear. And he very much looks like he's been scratched there. Does look quite sore. It's almost pulled away from the skull, quite a deep cut. So he has definitely been fighting, and that was more than likely inflicted by that female defending her cubs. But that will heal up fairly quickly. He does just, I've noticed him while he's been sitting, he does seem to have quite a floppy ear. Oh, and he's down again. So guys, I don't think that these Birmingham boys are going to be up to much at the moment, and I would just like to do a little bit of a loop around this area and see if I can help to follow up on where those Nkuhumas Pride members went. I'm very curious to know how far away they've gone from the Birmingham boys. So for now, I think we are going to say goodbye to these boys, and while we extricate ourselves from this position we're in, we are going to send you back across to Steph, who is out exploring, and I will catch up with you a little bit later. But never fear, we will be back with the Birmingham boys as it starts to get a little bit darker and a little bit cooler, and we'll see if there's any action when it's a bit more likely that they're going to be up and about. So for now, I will see you later, catch up with you then.
That one there looks like he's got a black eye. Look at his right.
Well, welcome back, and we've been busy tracking through this area while you've been with Jamie, and myself and Asima have come into the area to see if we can follow up on the Nkuhumas Pride. So from what we knew, they were lying up at the dam until after 1 o'clock. somewhere. It looks like some elephant chased them away. And a seamer seems to have found them here, just lying in the drainage line, just on the other side of Djuma. So what we're going to do is see if we can go and see them. I think it would be good to see what's going on. It's, for me, astounding that they haven't vacated the area, with the Birmingham boys lying less than 400 meters away on the stolen buffalo carcass, with Junior in attendance, I think. But I've been trying to think about it the whole time we've been out here, and this morning, and I come back to the same conclusion. These lions have known of one another for a long, long time, and for a lot of the time we're there with them, we don't actually know what goes on after hours, so to say, after our hours are finished. And you might find that there's already a very clear-cut relationship with those lions, and that they are slowly falling under the sway of the Birmingham boys' dominance play of this area. I think we'll see a few months still of contests between the Matimbas and the Birminghams, but it's very clear the Birminghams have made it clear that they're here to stay. They've come and killed the Matimba's woman, they've come and killed their cubs, and that is as overt a threat as I've ever heard of one in my life. So somewhere around here in front we've got a seamer, and there we go. Let's go and see if we can see what's going on. Alright, quite thick down there, but these flies, and you go through these belts out here with these flies, and they just come out of nowhere and attack you. It's crazy. Ah, okay, I can see them. It's going to make for a very difficult view to show you, to be honest, but let's give it a bash. Straight over my shoulder there, you'll be able to see a lion. That's I promise you that's a lion. Doesn't look like it, but that's a lion's flank that you're having a look at the moment. Very tough to try and get in there. I don't actually know if there's even a path into there. I've walked in there quite a lot, but I haven't ever driven inside of there. You can drive into the drainage line here, but definitely not into and through the drainage line that we can see there. At least we know that where they are, and that's a good thing. Holy moly, I'm being plagued by flies here. So that's amazing for me, I must be honest with you. We've got, I don't know how many are there, but I don't know if Junior's there, I can't see. And this is about the best view that we've got at the moment of them. Right, now that we know that the Nkuhumas are lying up here close to Djuma camp, we've got the Birmingham boys a couple of 100 meters south of where we are at the moment. Very early this morning I was listening to two male lions roaring even further south, probably about 1.5 kilometers from where we are at the moment, and that is where I think the two Matimba males are. And then the Styx lionesses are... Brian, he ambushed me with the camera showing you all I'm swatting flies on my head. And the Styx lionesses, as far as I know, we're in Chitwa. That was where the action happened this morning. So the Styx lionesses are lying southeast of where we are at the moment. The Matimbas, I think, are lying due south of where we are at the moment. The Birminghams came in from the southwest. Where they crossed over, I'm not too sure. But they came in from the southwest because they entered Djuma from the southwest. And now we've got literally the Nkuhumas lying up probably 200 meters, 150, 200 meters north of where the Matimbas are, the Birmingham boys are at the moment. So all the lions pretty much centered around this area, Djuma Private Game Reserve. A good reason for that, in that Djuma at the moment seems to be on the periphery of a couple of core territories. It's in the home range, but not in the core territories of 2 or 3 prides of lion at the moment. But definitely the Styx lionesses have got their core territory further to the south and to the southeast. The Nkuhumas definitely have their core territory a little bit on Djuma, but in Torchwood and Buffelshoek. And then we have a pride of lion that was coming in from Simabili side. Brent saw them a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago. And they've got their territory sort of in the northwestern corner. So definitely got this mix of lion prides, but nothing happening, with quarantine open area pretty much being the neutral ground. And it's where we've seen quite a lot of lions moving. We've seen the Matimbas on quarantine open air roaring. I've seen the Birmingham boys not roaring on quarantine, but lying right off of it, marking territory. And in my experience, lion territories can move. You have male coalitions coming in and taking over pride, and quite often what they'll do is they'll shift to an area that they defend, especially when they start mating with the females and having babies. And the females start having their cubs. That core, that nucleus of that territory will move slightly in response to the males. Although it is the females that hold the territories, it's the females that are the custodians of the territories. I think let's see if we can get a little bit more forward and see if we can get a better visual. I'd like to see if Junior is here. I can only imagine he would be. Can't imagine he's going to be walking off just yet. I've got a couple of lions lying over there. We'll try and show you through the trees there. Is it okay for you, Brian?
I need to go a little bit further forward.
Brian says you want to just go a bit further forward. Let's see if I can use my binoculars and see what we've got there. You've got a couple of flat cats. They've obviously got 3/4 of a buffalo digesting in their bellies. So I can see from where I am 4 lions, no male. I can't see Junior, but I think he's still here. I mean, I can't imagine that he'd be anywhere else. 4 lions now that I can see. So I can see 4 lions. There's one flopping down over there. They're very alert still. You can see those ears are definitely pointing towards where those lions are feeding off of that carcass. A fantastic place for a lion to lie there in the shade. Not the best visual, but nonetheless, at least we know where they are. Now, we've just been talking about how the Nkuhumas have known about the Birmingham boys for months now. And the Birmingham boys have moved out of the Manyeleti and have come gradually further south and definitely the Nkuhumas would have had something to do with these Birmingham boys before. It's been going on for months. Apparently the Birmingham boys have killed not just one but a couple of their lionesses now, so they're definitely the lionesses that put up the biggest opposition to them moving into the area have been dealt with, and the lions that are left are going to be the ones that are subservient to them. So Tim has asked, if the two prides of lions know one another, would the rest of the lions in this area know one another? In other words, would the Styx lionesses and the Nkuhumas know of one another? And what happens if there had to be an encounter between the two? Would it be a violent encounter? Now, Tim, the lions will defend their core territories even unto death. Not all the lionesses will have that compulsion to fight to the death, but they definitely will protect their core territories from other lion prides. Their home ranges are now something a little bit different. The home ranges are and do have overlaps between the different lion prides, and should the Styx lionesses and the Nkuhuma pride meet each other in a home range, I have no doubt that it'll be full of posturing, roaring. You know, there might be one or two scuffles, but it's not going to be anything serious. However, should the Styx pride or the Nkuhumas venture into the core territories, they will definitely be met with a much more aggressive response. And lions that are evenly matched in strength and size, definitely the fighting that can result from an encounter like that could even be deadly. It's not often that you see lions, I mean, as much as what we've seen this aggressive behavior today, and it's been a bit crazy today, it's not often that you see lions killed by other lions. Far more frequent is you see lions in fights with other lions and being injured, puncture marks, even eyes being pulled out by claws, and lacerations across the face. Doesn't usually result in the death of a lion, but it can, like with almost any encounter. You can see these lions are just lying down there. I still can't see Junior. I'm periodically scanning the lions that I can see with my binoculars. I actually think I can see Junior facing away. So that lioness that's lying on her back on the right hand side, you can see her foot's up there. The leaves are covering it for you, but I can just get this faint maney fringe there, and I think he's lying at the back of that. I think that's exactly where he is. Yeah, he's definitely there. So good, he's still with his natal pride, and that's good news. So we're going to see if we can get into a better position. I think it would be a good idea to send you back to Jamie, who's got a bird to show you, and we'll see you in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
Maybe on your egg.
So guys, unfortunately our little arrow marked babbler has flown away. We're struggling to get them. We've stumbled right into the middle of a bird feeding party. So there's also an orange-breasted bushshrike just moving through in the tree there. And I'm just going to see if I can maybe get it to come out again. We did manage successfully earlier. So I'm going to try again and just whistle for it. It is a really, really beautiful bird to see. It's just hopping around in there, coming to investigate. There we go, just a brief visual of him. one of the most striking bush shrikes. And this is unfortunately not their breeding time. Oh, there he is. He's tucked away in there. There you can see that flash of the orange breast. So that is the orange-breasted bush shrike. And maybe for some of you, a new bird to add to your bird list. I'm sure we will hear them lots and lots come summertime when it is their breeding season. Oh, he's just popped out there. And he's up on the... Here we go. Being very obliging. Bush shrikes are one of the most secretive and hard to film little birds, especially the grey-headed and the orange-breasted, as well as the gorgeous bush shrike. But I'm glad we got to just see him ever so briefly. Just hopping around, catching various insects that are around this young leadwood. Really, really striking little bird. And it's cousins with the grey-headed bush shrike, which in Afrikaans is known as a spookvoël, or a ghost bird, because you hear them but you hardly ever see them. So really, really cool that we got to see this little one as clearly as we have. Oh. And he's ducked away. So how cool was that? Just a quick little visual of one of the most striking and beautiful little birds, but also one of the most shy and elusive. So great that we got to see him. And just a quick update from my side, there's still no reports on where the other two Birmingham boys are. So I'm heading back towards where they would have crossed over onto Djuma, just to have a look to see if maybe they've stopped at one of the dams for a drink. Because judging by the other three, they were looking fairly exhausted, and there's a possibility that the other two just stopped for a rest along the way and haven't quite moved. So we're just going to do a quick loop around the dams and then see if we can find them from there. And it's great news that Steph has found the Nkuhumas. I'm glad to hear that they are at least in the area. So before I head off on my dam searching mission, we've got a great little addition to my monitor. So you will have noticed that there is a little bit of a skull sitting on the top, and Iodine was wondering what it is that we have there. And the answer to that is, it is a little jackal skull, we believe. And we think it is that same side-striped jackal that was killed by a leopard. Apparently it would have been just before my time, but it would have been the jackal skull from that sighting. It was found very, very close to the sighting that Scott had, where the leopard killed the jackal. And I'm not sure if it was a side-striped or a black-backed. Andrew, do you know?
I think side-striped.
You think it was side-striped? Thank you. It was before my time. Oh, we got quite a cool double effect there. And this morning, I did a little bit of a quiz, and then we got interrupted by quite the dramatic ongoing events there. So I asked the viewers what they thought this was. It was something that I picked up along our way in Arathusa, and I was wondering if anybody knew. So I'm going to put that to you guys as well, if you are just joining us for the sunset safari and you missed the sunrise. I was just wondering if you guys can tell me what you think it is, what part of what species, where you think it came from. This is sort of fairly thin looking, and that is what it looks like. But I do want species specific as well. You can see it's nice and ridged. So let me know what you think this might be, and you can do so on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through your answers to questions@wildearth.tv, And I know there were some answers from this morning, so we will let you know if that was who got it correct. And I'm just putting it to some of you who might have joined us for the sunset safari as well. So just a quick question for you. I'll let you know a little bit later, but let's continue on our mission towards the dam and see if we can spot any of those other Birmingham boys. But I'm just going to do a quick loop because I do want to get back before it gets late and it starts to get dark. And there's lots and lots and lots of vulture activity around. They have gathered. They were originally drawn in by that buffalo carcass that was at Torchwood, and they've now moved across to the buffalo carcass that the Nkuhumas had in that drainage line. And so there's plenty of them around. They're roosting in all of the trees around the kill, but they have pretty much finished as much as they could get into. I think that is the reason why most of them have moved off the kill for now. Okay, so let's hit the road, make our way across to the dams and see if those other males have stopped there for a bit of a rest and a drink. I'm very curious to know where those other two have gone. Approaching very close to Twin Dams now. I am just checking around this area for tracks. I don't want to miss anything because there's always the possibility that these lions retreated into the shade in the drainage line somewhere. Haven't seen anything yet. Haven't seen anything yet. Actually approaching the area where I very first encountered the Styx and their cubs, as well as the two Timber males on my interview drive. At that point I had absolutely no idea where I was at any one point in time. I was very lucky to have Andrew on the back helping me out and showing me where to go. So it's nice to return here and know exactly where I am this time. I have just seen a big male lion track. Shift back a little bit so we can see. Oh, there we go. It's just on the boundary there. Sorry, Andrew. So that track to me does not look all that fresh. I think it's from this morning. It's already got mongoose tracks going through it. I think that is from the other three that are further north where we left them. But it is hard to tell. I'm guessing at that, judging by how many vehicles have moved over that track. There was a great deal of vehicle activity when those Birminghams did cross over. Any water left at Twin Dams. Oh, I was hoping it was going to.
You can't go from the top.
Let me try and get a good visual of this, we actually have one of the fish eagles that lives around here on the ground, and it's amazing how enormous they look when you do see them from this angle. So let me just try and get through there. Oh, hello giraffe. Oh, and it does have sorry, I'm just going to shift forward slightly so we've got both the giraffe and the fish eagle in the background. You've got a nice big male giraffe. He was a bit of a surprise. I think I surprised him as well. And I think it is going to be a truly spectacular sunset this evening. Of this really quite majestic male. And what a perfectly typical African scene, with the fish eagle in the background and the giraffe moving down towards the dam. So this male does seem to have a bit of a limp going, and I think it would be the same male that Steph saw apparently yesterday evening on the sunset safari. So I think that might be him. We are in this very close to where Steph saw that male, and I'm sure that is him. He does have quite a limp, but it doesn't seem to be too serious. I'm sure he will be okay. He does seem to have a swollen ankle on the left foot. Sorry, the front left foot. You can't have a right left foot. The front left foot. He does seem to be struggling a little bit with that. He's obviously twisted his ankle in some way. We've also, there he's just feeding on a guari bush. They're sort of one of the only animals that I've seen feeding on guaris. So they do seem to enjoy it. And that fish eagle we've seen very, very regularly at Twin Dams. And it seems to be a perfect moment for him because there's hardly any water left. So his fishing job is very, very much easier. Look how cool that is. We were talking a little bit about, look how spectacular that is. I did see him pick up the catfish, and I was saying that it was like catching, it is quite literally like catching fish in a barrel at the moment. And this fish eagle has caught the most enormous, what looks like a catfish. And I'm very curious to see how he's planning on going about devouring this fish now. But a great kill for this fish eagle. Really, really cool to see. And I am going to hope that he stays in one position and just try and reposition a little bit so that we can see him a little bit clearer, maybe even get just a little bit closer. Going to find a better perch to consume his kill. Here he goes. I think he's just looking for a slightly more secure area. And that was such a pity that he decided to move away from where he was. I think it was also to do with the giraffe moving towards him. But just a little bit earlier, as we came in, he was flying off. And Connie, it is definitely a new situation for me, where a flying fish eagle with a kill in its talons is blocked by the head of a large male giraffe. Definitely the first time that's ever happened on my side as well. But we do still have a quite spectacular African sunset happening. And it's made all that much better by the silhouette of the giraffe just peacefully feeding on that leadwood. And there has been a certain level of pathetic fallacy to the weather today. It's been very, very changeable and very windy at times, this sort of strange end of winter and the beginning of summer with lots of wind, the clouds coming in and out all day, going from hot to cold in the matter of minutes. And it does seem to match up. Oh, all the oxpeckers disappearing off the giraffe. The mood really has matched the goings on that have been happening with the lions. It's almost like the weather is in sync with the level of changes that are on the cards over the next few months. So we saw that flock of oxpeckers flying off the giraffe, and it's quite typical to see them flying off together. They are also what's known as cooperative breeders, so they will roost together in groups with the previous year's offspring sticking around with the adults to help out. And they've just come off that giraffe now, just as it's starting to get dark. It's time for them to head off to their roosting trees for the night. So it's very, very common to see them flying home at this time of day. They're either flying back to roost or flying to get some water. In that case, they were heading off probably to settle down in a tree for the night. So we're sitting with this wonderful male giraffe silhouetted against what's looking to be a spectacular sunset. And Linda would like to know what subspecies of giraffe we get in this area. Oh, sorry guys, I will finish that question later, but because it is World Elephants Day, we're going to quickly go back to Steph and have a look at some ellies.
Well, for World Elephant Day, we've managed to find you some ellies. It's okay, relax. We just had to wish you a happy Elephant Day. Thanks for tolerating us. Isn't she beautiful? She really is in very good condition. You can see that her trunk is wet at the bottom. They were drinking. And very, very quick, or very obliging, I should say, for a quick view on this day. I didn't even know it was World Elephant Day today. Wow, you are a pretty elephant. For some reason, her features are just really, really beautiful. Tusks are nice and symmetrical. She's just busy picking off all the sticks that she doesn't want. Using that long prehensile nose that she has. There we go. Scratching behind her ear. Oh, look at that. Throwing away what she doesn't want. Oh, she's in beautiful condition. No man, what are you doing? Enough. Head up display, that's just an ellie showing us how big she can get. Still giving us a bit of displacement behavior. Oh, there we go. She kicks that off with her trunk. Let's see if she puts it in her mouth and eats. Yes, there she goes. No, just breaking pieces off. Isn't that trunk just the most amazing thing? Lately, over the last couple of weeks, I must be honest with you, I've just been absolutely fascinated by their trunks. They really are just the most amazing things in the bush for me at the moment. And I mean, I've been watching elephant for close on 20 years. And although they were always interesting for me, they never quite held the fascination that they do. They almost got a life of their own, these trunks. I mean, have a look at those fingers there. She knows exactly what's going on. Oh, drops it, decides no. What a beautiful cow elephant. I'm going to go forward just a little bit so we can get her going in. I didn't want to do it while we were close to her like that. Obviously wasn't too impressed with the vehicle looking at her. Still looking over her shoulder at us. You can see the rest of her herd there in the background. I'll zoom in a bit. Beautiful ellie on a beautiful day. There's just something about elephant that just really epitomizes Africa for me. They have the same sort of savagery, the same power. They have the same, the same tragedies. I would almost go to say, and they can be equally as tragic to look at when they're sick or when they're dying. Everything that sort of embodies Africa is held in an elephant for me. There they disappear into the bush. As you can see, it's very thick, and with that cow giving us that display that she did, we're not going to be following them inside there. All it's going to do is make her irritated, and that's the last thing that I want her to do, is associate cars with an irritation. We're here to respect them, and they're here to respect us, and that's one of the ways that they communicate with us. She's quite clearly not interested in us following her, so we're going to move on, and you're going to carry on up the road. We're going to see what we can find. And I suppose before we go on, I can always send you back to Jamie, who's got something exciting. I'm sorry I stole you from Jamie so quickly, but we'll join you in a little bit.
So guys, welcome back. And I do hope you enjoyed even just the briefest glimpse of the ellies for World Elephant Day. I'm glad we got to see them. And it is quite a truly spectacular sunset. And Linda, I haven't forgotten your question about the giraffe species and whether or not they are subject to the giraffe skin disease that they get, that affects the skin around their legs and actually even further up. Linda, we only get one subspecies of giraffe here, and that is the savanna or the Southern African giraffe. And they do indeed get that skin disease. There's a couple of different ones. They are subject to the most common one, the one that you mentioned, the giraffe skin disease. There's also a sort of a variant of the herpes virus that affects giraffe skin, and it gives them these nasty swellings and polyps around their skin. And we do get those for all of the species of giraffe, and in particular the ones that we get here, which is the savanna or the Southern African giraffe. And there's lots and lots of debate about the different subspecies, exactly how many there are. Scientists are still arguing about it. Scientists and ecologists and biologists are all sort of come to different conclusions. The most common one is that there are about 7 different subspecies, but we only get one particular type in this area. So guys, our giraffe has disappeared, and we do have some brilliantly correct answers to my question about that little item that I showed you. So congratulations to, amongst many others, Joyce, Raggedy Ann, Larry. You've all got it right. It was indeed a tortoise shell and part of a leopard tortoise shell. It's just that hard keratin, one of the hard keratin scales that covers it. And if we looked a little bit closer, we can actually see the various grooves as that tortoise has grown. And that is the tortoise growing from season to season. So obviously they do most of their growth in summer when they get the best access to food. So you get those nice growth patterns. And then that slows down almost completely when they go into their estivation during winter. So very much looking forward to seeing those tortoises coming out once again. They will be out with the first rains, although apparently the first one has been seen moving about. But I'm very, very excited. I do love tortoises, but very well done. That was part of a leopard tortoise shell. So I think it's time for us to start heading back to the Birmingham, boys. Our sun has set for now, and I do want to make my way back in. It's not the easiest block to find our way into, so I'm going to head back in that direction. No sign and no reports of those other males. I really am not sure where they've gone, but we will keep you updated and obviously listen to the feedback from some of the other guides as well. to move fairly quickly just to make sure that we get back with plenty of time before it starts to get dark. I am hoping that those 3 younger males will start to contact call at some point to the other members of that coalition. We are heading back in that direction towards the Birmingham boys. I'd like to chat to you a little bit about those keratin sheath, or the scoots or the shoots that cover a tortoise shell. And we did find the rest of that shell around when we were looking for that female leopard on Arethusa. And I didn't bring the entire carcass because it was really quite smelly. But we did have a nice look at it, and we could actually tell that it was a female tortoise, and that was because the plastron, or the bottom part of the shell, was completely flat, whereas in males and all tortoises it's slightly concave, and that just makes it a little bit easier for the male to mount the female. So you can learn a lot from looking at tortoise shells. You can actually almost count those grooves that I was talking about, those growth grooves, almost in the same way you can with rings in a tree that has been cut down. And you can use it, it's not the most accurate way obviously, but you can use it as a way of aging a tortoise. Those tortoises can live well over 70 years, and they continue growing throughout their lives. That one was probably about 10 years old. Quite a small tortoise still. Waiting for an opportunity to let the other guides know that I'm making my way back towards that sighting. And just the tail end of what I think was a dark chanting goshawk, we just saw it disappearing, but we can hear the grey-go waybirds shouting an alarm calling at it. We just listen nice and quietly, we can hear them all calling. And that was definitely in response to that goshawk, and that is because goshawks are renowned bird hunters. So the grey-go waybirds are always fiercely sort of alert to their presence, and in that case he was spotted. Don't know if it was trying to hunt or if it was just heading back home, but definitely alerted the grey-go waybirds. And you can see already they've gone completely silent, the threat is gone, and that's quite a good way, if you're listening to alarm calls, of determining exactly what it is that's passing through. If it's that very sharp burst of alarm calls from lots of different individuals, but it only lasts a little length of time, then it probably was something like a predatory bird just moving through the area very quickly, just because they stopped so soon. If it was something like a leopard that was meandering through the area, the alarm calls would sound very, very similar, but they'd go on for a much longer and much more extended period of time. So always useful to listen to the sounds of the bush. Jump onto the Game Drive channel quickly, just to let them know that I'm making my way back towards that sighting. Lee for Jamie. Lee, are you still with those Vidora and Gala? Okay, copy that, yeah. I think I'm gonna make my way back towards that sighting now. Copy that, thank you. I'm just approaching Vulture's Nest now, but I will stand by for that. Copy that, thank you. Just some little Inyala running through. Sorry, I didn't see them, otherwise I would have stopped sooner. Just busy chatting on the Game Drive channel. They have just tucked themselves away right in this thick block. No, they have moved off, but it was just one or two little Inyala coming through. There was a young male and a female. Moved far from the guides on the radio are just discussing how thick this block is that the Birmingham boys are in. I know the feeling. We certainly had a struggle getting in. We're probably going to have another struggle getting back in. Though our route out was probably slightly easier than our route in. And we do have the advantage of having these short-based cars, which makes life a lot easier, a lot simpler. Just zipping through the trees, we don't have to deal with vehicles that are sort of twice in length. We're talking about that little piece of tortoise shell or scoot that we picked up earlier. And Raisa was wondering if they grow from the middle or if they grow from the outside. And the answer to that is they grow from the middle as far as I know and sort of push the edges outwards, which is why they tend to be thicker towards the middle and they tend to peak in the middle. Making my way in now. When that goshawk flew over, we heard the go-away birds, the grey go-away birds calling. And Jimelin would like to know where they get their names. Now, Lee, I've just come off Vulture's Nest Road. Sorry guys, it was just calling me. Okay, copy, no problem. So guys, we're just going to stand by briefly and have a look at the truly spectacular sky. But Jimmerlin, we were talking about the go-away birds. Well, welcome to the Sunset Safari. It's great to have you. And the reason they are called go-away birds is due to their call. So they make a call that sounds very much like they are saying, go away, go away. And they often do it in response to not only birds of prey and other predators, but they also do it in response to people. So they're very, very good at giving your position away in the bush if you're trying to sneak around or sneak up to something to see it. And that is where the name go-away bird comes from. And the reason we've stopped at the moment is just to give the guys a chance to negotiate their way out of what is a very, very thick block, obviously with a couple of lions possibly in the way. So while we sit here, and unfortunately we are just going to have to wait here until we have a chance to move into that sighting, I'm going to send you back across to Steph to catch up with whatever he's been up to, and I will see you a little bit later when we are back with the 3 Birmingham boys.
Welcome back to myself and Brian. We've been driving around the block look after we finished with those elephant. I'm just seeing what's crossed in at our northeastern boundary. We haven't been here for a few days, and it's always a good thing to keep your eye open for what's crossing in and crossing out, especially considering this morning we were all stuck in the central part of the reserve with all the action that was happening over there. And this place has just been inundated with elephants. Everywhere I'm looking is just fresh elephant sign. And I'm fully expecting to come around the corner and see this pride of elephants. But what's more interesting is the fact that for the first time since the hyena have moved their den, we've actually seen a lot of hyena activity, just the footprints of the hyena at the junction at the top behind us. And I think there's a very good chance that they may have moved their den into this area, which is a good thing. It gives us an idea of where to start looking for this hyena den. Myself and Jamie have put some discussion into where we think these hyena have moved to. Brian was just busy telling me that he knows of 3 or 4 den sites that they could be at. So I think over the next couple of days you can absolutely stay tuned. I'm definitely going to make it a mission of mine to try and find hyena. I love hyena. So, it seems like we've had some signal gremlins, sorry about that. But we did go through a bit of a dip, and then it took a bit of time for the system to kick out all those gremlins and get us back on track again. So, it does happen. And I'm sure that those that have been with, excuse me, it's just something that has caught my eye here, but it's just a young hyena track. It looks like that hyena, that young hyena, the sub-adult hyena, is definitely hunting with a pack. Because right here on the floor is hyena tracks with a slightly smaller one, about that big. A little bit dark to see it now. It's going to be really tough to show you, but the good news is it looks like those sub-adults are busy hunting with the adults. Even though there is a buffalo in this area that's dead that will attract them, it's always good to know that the youngsters are busy moving about with the adults. You know, they grow up so quickly. Before you know it, they're adults, and you hardly recognize them out of the melee that is the madness around our hyena den. So as I was saying, we're just going on a recce of our northeastern corner just to see what has come in and crossed the boundary. And apart from a lot of elephant and a lot of hyena activity, nothing much seems to have crossed in there. And I was just remarking on the fact that I haven't seen Karula in a long time. I wonder what's happened to her. If any of you have any updates about where she is or what she's been doing, you're welcome to send through those comments to the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you could email questions at wildearth.tv. I would like to know what's going on, and I'm sure the rest of the viewers would like to know as well. What we're going to do is now make our way back through to where we saw those Nkuhumas. They probably will start getting moving round about now. I'm hoping that they're thirsty and they're going to drink some water at the Juma waterhole. It didn't look like they were fast asleep, as they should be, because of the proximity to the Birminghams on their buffalo. But what has been the most surprising thing of today is the fact that they didn't just hightail it out of the area once they got chased off of the kill. The sort of lack of overt aggression towards Junior from the Birminghams, who were obviously, their blood was high. They were really riled up after killing those cubs, and it just seems like a bit of an anticlimax, although a surprising one. This is good. I just spotted an elephant's trunk. We got one in the road in front of us. Whoop whoop. Talking about all the elephants that we've been seeing around. Signal might get a bit jumpy as we go through this dip. Just hold on. We'll be out of it in a in a jiffy. That's a big elephant. Looks like an enormous male elephant, which is what I've been wanting to see for a while now. I'm gonna have a look and see what he's up to. Now with elephant, I'm smelling a very sweet smell, and I have almost, look at between his legs. He is in must. I'll show you now. He'll probably spin around and give us a bit of attitude. A bull elephant in must. Their bodies have about 70% more testosterone than normal, and this causes them to want to pick fights with almost everything. And you can see that sheen on his back legs there. That's from a secretion from his prostate. Because of all this testosterone that he's got in his body, his glands are just functioning at overtime, and he leaks out this fluid that, for one, is a deterrent to other male elephants in the area, to warn them that this bull's in must, and for two, it's an aphrodisiac for the ladies. It's a perfume that they really cannot ignore. And mature bull elephants start going into must very similar to when a teenager comes out of puberty, so between 13 and 21, and will continue to go into must for their entire lives. It is dominated, or regulated I should say, by very, very big prime bull elephant. So young bull elephant, they will actually be suppressed from must, as will very old bull elephant. They'll also be suppressed. Let's see. He's just walking on the road. I've no doubt he's making his way to the dam for a drink. Leaking all this fluid out that he's got at the moment is definitely going to make him thirsty. Depending on the book that you read, they leak anywhere from 50 to 200 liters a day, although I think that 200 liters a day one is a bit of an exaggeration, but definitely 20 to 50 liters a day is very feasible. And it is a sweet, cloying smell. You can notice it, even we with our poor senses can notice it. Quite a nice elephant bull. Not the biggest one. So the temporal gland, the gland behind the ear, you will see that now, is also, you can see that there very clearly now. You can see that this gland is also in overdrive, and if you have a look behind his eye, you'll actually notice the swelling there of that gland. That gland is about 3 times the size it normally is during an elephant bull's must period. You can see it weeping down his cheeks. I stopped to have a snack. He's not the biggest bull elephant that I've seen. Definitely not the biggest bull elephant in the Kruger National Park. I reckon he's probably in the region of about 4 tons, 8,000 pound. With the heaviest bull elephant ever weighed being close to 10 tons or 20,000 pounds. Give you an idea of how much this boy still has to grow. If I were to judge his age, I'd probably say he's in the region of between 30 and 35 years old, potentially a bit younger than that, maybe 25 at a minimum range, but he's probably closer to 30, I would say, if I were to judge. 30 to 35. He's actually quite close to these Nkuhumas at the moment. They're lying off to his left by a few meters. I'm going to see if I can get you a picture of the smell that's coming off of this guy at the moment is fantastic. Excuse me, my pink glacier came into shot there. It is a distraction, I know. Ooh, it is a smelly boy, this. I'm so glad that he's letting us enjoy him at this distance. You can see that he is keeping a wary eye on us as he walks. He's busy turning his head from side to side. Now, what I'm looking at is his tail. An elephant's tail is going to be what tells me whether or not he is getting upset with where we're driving at the moment. If he holds it cocked to the one side, that is him telling me that I'm too close. It's a subliminal message from an elephant. And since he's not displaying that cocked tail, I know that he's quite happy with where we are at the moment. Even though he is in a heightened emotional state, not all elephants that are in must want to kill you. He's just slowly through to the dam for a drink. Are we going to go and join him there for a drink? Absolutely. Bull elephants like this will drink about 200 liters of water a day. They drink once a day. See, he's coming back onto the road again. So those big round front feet, as big as dustbin lids, followed by the smaller oval feet, stepping almost into each track. Isn't that a sight? It's almost like he can smell the water. He's picked up his pace a little bit. Just giving his ears a bit of a shake. It looks like he's got something stuck in his ear. He's just moving his ear up and down. It's just some dust, probably. Let's see if which side of the dam he's going to choose to go and drink water from. If he's a bull that knows this area very well, he'll probably go to the pumped water in the pan close to the lodge. But if he's just a bull visiting, which they do, these bulls roam vast areas of the Kruger National Park. I've heard reports of bull elephant roaming the entire length of the Kruger National Park and back again. So it may be that he doesn't know that this watering hole has a pumped section. It doesn't look like it. It looks like he's going straight down to the water. I think what we're going to do is go and park somewhere where we can see his reflection. I'm going to go above the dam wall, I think so. Just confirming with Brian what's going to be the best from a picture point of view. Those lights that you can see there in the distance, that is the Juma webcam, the waterhole cam. The oldest webcam in the world at the moment, or the longest operating webcam in the world. Let's see what this elephant does. Isn't that such a beautiful picture? Typically African picture there, elephant, bull, watering hole. Let's see what he does there for us. So elephant herds have a much smaller home range that they roam around in, and matriarchs know all the secret little places. And that's why yesterday, for those of you who are watching yesterday, you would have noticed that the elephant went up to that pan. Let's see what this elephant does. He's bypassing the dam water, which is muddy at the moment. Let's see if he knows where the fresher water is. Just testimony to the memory of these animals. Have a look at that picture. Oh, I love pictures like that. Very privileged. That camp in the background, that's Vuyatela Lodge. Looks like he's going to cross and he's going up to that pan. Let's go and go around and go and see him walk up to that pan. Looks like this elephant absolutely knows his way around this area. I don't know why I even doubted it. Excuse the bumps as we go through this bit of a dip. Let's go around and go and have a look at this pumped pan. Now, for those of you who think that pump pans are, why do we do it? It's quite simple, is that even a park as big as the Kruger National Park is fenced and limits animals' migration. And the Kruger National Park is a very long park, north to south, but quite a skinny park east to west, only about 80 miles or so, and doesn't encompass the entire dry season water sources for elephants like this. And so pump pans are a necessity in some areas. There's a movement in the park to actually limit the amount of pans that there are, and they have started to close down some of these pans. But in the private reserves like we have at the moment, that hasn't happened just yet. Yeah, we've got, look at that. Oh, magic. Going straight for the pipe. It's obviously not being pumped at this time of the day. He's now looking quite confused, like, why is there not ice cold water coming out of that pipe? Have him sniff him around. I'm sure if he could, he would be sending an email straight through to Juma management asking why they're not doing it this time of the day. Now watch the tip of his trunk. You'll notice that he'll taste the water, and he should scoop off the dust that's collected from the breeze we had this afternoon. You might find that he scoops off the dust. Hang on, I might have to move out of the way. Let's see what he's going to do. There we go. Have a look at that. See him moving the dust from the tip of his trunk, just taking from the front. Awesome. Oh, that is so fantastic. We literally 30 feet from him at the moment, not even, probably 20 feet from him at the moment. See what he's gonna. Excuse me for not talking at the moment, folks. I'm enjoying this as much as what you are, sharing this very almost intimate moment with this big bull elephant. And this for me was the sighting of the afternoon, sharing this very special moment with this beautiful male elephant. It's been quite an exciting day for us. We've had lots of interactions with lions. We've had amazing elephant sighting of a beautiful cow elephant, and we're actually closing our drive today on Elephant Day with this magnificent bull elephant. So myself and Brian would just like to say thank you for joining us on this safari this afternoon or this evening, and we look forward to taking you out tomorrow. So we're going to bid you a good night. You're going to go back to Jamie and enjoy the Birmingham boys. We're going to sit here and enjoy this bull elephant a little bit longer, and have a good evening.
So guys, a very difficult and sad day for all of us here at WildEarth, as well as all of the viewers. And I know that this is a very difficult thing for many of you to watch, and it is very sad for myself and Andrew to sit here. However, we must remember that this is nature, and it is just one of those inevitable things that as we get to follow these animals throughout the days and months, we do get attached to them and get to know them or feel like we know them on a personal level. But the thing about this kind of situation is that you cannot just have the good and the best parts of nature. You have to take it as as it comes, all of it. And unfortunately, this is one aspect. And we've just been sitting in silence for a while and listening to the nightjars calling. And it means that summer is on its way. There will be other pregnant lionesses who will be giving birth soon. And these losses will be surpassed by the various joys that nature will bring back to this area in the next few months. And Janet from Boston, I know that you had a question about how this cub died. If the lioness, the mother, was alone when it happened, and as far as I know, she was, but I'm not too sure about that. We haven't heard the full details of the situation yet. I will ask the guide who had this sighting when I do see him. She might have been with her other young sister, who she's often together with, and if that was the case, then they both would have tried to fight and defend the cubs. So a very, very sad day for all of us, but one that promises a lot of changes in the future. These Birmingham boys are proving to be a serious force to be reckoned with. We still don't know where the other two are, and that will definitely be a definite starting point for our sunrise safari tomorrow morning. We will be trying to figure out exactly what's going on with this group dynamic, and I will be sitting at camp not too far from here and listening really, really carefully to hear the calls of the various lions in the area to see if the timber males start to respond to this particular territorial invasion. So a difficult day, but one that does promise a lot of interesting and a lot of knowledge to be gained from the experiences and what we are going to witness over the next few months. And it's important for us all to remember that this is part of nature, and it is going to be the way that things are for the next few months, but it will bring fresh genetic stock and a really, really good advantage and a fantastic bloodline coming through in these Birmingham boys, really good looking, physically strong males. So I know that it's been a difficult time, but we thank you for staying on board with us and for understanding. And I have a big thank you to say to Andrew, who's done some fantastic camera work today, including keeping up with that orange-breasted bushshrike that we saw earlier. And of course to Tara and Jess in FC, and Eugene for all of his technical genius work, without whom we would not have a show. So join us for the sunrise safari, and we will start following up on what is happening with the Birmingham boys. Have a great day or a great evening wherever you are in the world, and we will see you tomorrow.